Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of Inside LP. It's where we do a little bit of banter about whatever the breaking news or latest information is from the Disney company. I'm the co-founder of Laughing Place, Rebecca Mosley, and with me is our current, I call him CEO, Ben Breitbart. He, just for those of you who have been following LP, he is quite knowledgeable in Disney history. He's been following the company for his whole life, I would say. I've been writing about the company for about 20 plus years now, but he has those learning smarts when it comes to business and economics and whatnot. So when a story like what we're about to talk about happens, this is where I go, and I'm happy to share his knowledge with you. Yes, Mr. Ben.
I was all ready to talk about Bob Iger, but I think there's a more pressing story just broke.
Uh-oh.
Are you familiar with Hot Ones?
With what?
Hot Ones, the interview show?
Vaguely. The that's the one where they eat spicy foods as they get asked personal questions that increase in intensity along with the flavor.
Yes. This week's guest, Donald Duck.
For real.
For
That's exciting. Okay. I
so
I am I am intrigued. I am
I'm not
intrigued.
I'm not that familiar with Hot Ones, except that like anytime there's like quality interview quotes, it's usually from Hot Ones. So I'm guessing, yeah. At first, I thought, I mean, it is gimmicky, but like apparently, it's a pretty good interview show. So, um, when yeah,
Yes. No.
that's our colleague Lee just put that into our queue, and I was like, wait, okay,
No, Sean Evans is a really great interviewer. I think that's the name over there. So, but yeah, as you see the headline here, it says "Life After Bob," and that's what brought us on the air initially was a press release from the Disney company naming James P. Gorman as the succession planning chair. So, just leading to a
yeah.
lot of discussion of succession planning. Yes.
So it was interesting today. I woke up to the news that Bob Iger was on Kelly Ripa's Sirius XM podcast. They probably intersected at the Disney Legend ceremony where Kelly Ripa was named a Disney Legend, and um, the headline that saw came out of it, among some other things, was that he can't wait to retire again. And I was like, okay, because if you were at D23, he got a rousing standing ovation on the first day, and I think there was some sort of I don't say question, but like, is this the last D23 Bob Iger? Obviously we don't know when the next D23 event is, but we had essentially that would be if it is replaced, he is replaced. It would be the fourth D23 in a row with a new CEO or with a different CEO. We had Bob, and then we had Bob, and then we had Bob, and then we had the new guy will be presumably at the next one. So who I'm guessing is not going to be named Bob, but you never know. So I was like, okay, it's an interesting. It's like you just had this moment in the spotlight, and now we're aggressively moving to your discussion about your succession planning. And we knew that his contract was supposed to end in 2026, which kind of meant, the process is, unless they extended him again, was going to heat up. And so I think today was kind of a way for him to signal, okay, no, we're not extending again. We're going to get this done now. And then this afternoon, after the bell, we get news that James Groman, who was almost legendary in succession planning, if you can be such a thing, he was the guy who orchestrated it at Morgan Stanley, and he was named the head of the succession planning committee, which also includes the chairman of the board, Mark Parker, Mary Barra from GM, and Calvin McDonald from Lululemon. So it's I don't know if it's a coincidence that this all kind of came out on the same day and all kind of came out, after that D23 moment. But I guess I don't know about you, but I kind of felt like we knew in the back of our mind that Bob Iger was going to be leaving and they'd have to pick somebody, but it was kind of okay down there, but like this all makes it feel very real today.
I was gonna say to after having seen him at D23 and the ovations that he received, to then see quotes in today, the Hollywood Reporter offered quotes from his podcast from the podcast interview with Kelly Ripa. This quote, I think it would be safe to assume, I think about it all the time. I could say that I'm obsessed with it would probably be an understatement. That's such a just I don't know, it feels like if you thought I was comfortable up there, if you thought I was really just, yeah, this is where I'm going to be for the next 5 years, no. Let me make sure you know that I see the door, I see the finish line. That's where I'm moving to. So it was nice to see you all. I love you very much, but don't get too used to me.
And so what's interesting to me is it's been publicly announced that there's 4 internal candidates that they're looking at. It's just not necessarily officially, but everyone's reporting it to the point where, they were told to report it, right? They may not put in a press release, but they might as well have. Mm-hmm. So it's Alan Bergman, head of studios, Dana Walden, who's in the spotlight this week on television business. They co-run the entertainment segment. You have Josh D'Amaro, who runs the experiences business, which includes products, and Jimmy Pitaro, who runs ESPN. What I think is noticeable, or I would say what I noticed, was 2 of those people showed up at D23 in terms of actually gave a presentation. We're actually on stage at the Honda Center. I know Dana Walden was there, but she never had her, hello, here I am. Josh D'Amaro led his presentation. Alan Bergman and Dana Walden, while Alan Bergman showed up and talked, Yvette Nicole Brown was really the MC of that presentation.
Okay.
Now, being an MC is not the, major qualification of being CEO of the Walt Disney Company. But knowing that there's a lot of obviously politics when you have 4 people who are peers competing for one job in sort of a Hunger Games style bake-off. I thought it was interesting that not everybody took that opportunity to have their moment in the sun, which may be the right decision because, like, for example, Alan Bergman's not as great a public speaker as Josh D'Amaro is. So, that might have been intentional. But to me, it was interesting. And the other thing that is interesting to me in this press release, it specifically calls out that, yes, they are looking at internal and external candidates, but that internal candidates are going through a preparation process that includes mentorship from Disney CEO Robert A. Iger, aka Bob, and external coaching and engagement with all board directors. So, there was talk of, Josh really sort of opened up the halls of, kind of threw everything against the wall D23, which they say he didn't, but it seems to be that, he kind of didn't leave a lot to the imagination in terms of big scope projects. But, if this is really heating up, he may want to show he has vision and, not just a financial vision, but an actual creative vision for his business.
Okay. Do you have like an inclination? So I guess that what I'm asking is that you saying that you think the scales are tilting towards Josh at this moment?
No, I think Josh has a couple things that are working against him. One is there's the optics of picking the parks guy to the company. Bob Chapek was the parks guy, optically, and was not successful. So, and some of his criticisms was that he didn't know how to engage with talent. And to me, it's interesting. I don't know if you've seen some of Robert Downey Jr.'s recent comments, but he recently was at Imagineering with Bob Iger to talk about his presence in Avengers Campus and other Avengers themed attractions, sort of as the Dr. Doom conversations were happening. And so was that example of Bob mentoring? Was that Bob getting Josh exposure to celebrity talent and working with celebrities? Because if you think about it, it's not all that common that they talk about, the star of this movie is going to reprise their role and, the attraction. Johnny Depp may be the one time they've done that before, but, but Tom Holland was in Spider-Man, and obviously Tom Holland's no Robert Downey Jr., but like they seem to really press home on that point more so than was probably necessary.
Yeah, see, and I'm thinking that that's more of leaning towards the realities of kind of that social media trending nature. And he was trending because he had just had that moment at Comic-Con, and so RDJ was still rather trendy. So I could see it being kind of, jumping on that bandwagon too. So I'm not sure which it's more indicative of. Kyle, our editor, coming in and saying he does not like RDJ reprising Iron Man at DCA if he doesn't redo the voices at Hong Kong or Disneyland Paris. So there you go. And Doobie, our other co-founder, saying, superficially, very superficial, Josh seems more to relate to the Hollywood environs than Chapek came off.
Well, it was funny too. I was watching the Oscars last year, I guess, March, and Josh D'Amaro was there next to Bob Iger clapping, and I was like, this has nothing to do with the experience business. This is all getting him exposure. Mm-hmm. And because that's part of the process that we have no visibility to, right? It could be a little thing, as Bob Chapek was, a little thing that he says or a little thing that does that either seals him the job or throws away the job for him. We're not going to see that, right? We're not going to see the personal interaction between Bob Iger, the board, and any of these candidates. Another thing that was interesting was one of the first rifts between Bob and Bob was, Bob Iger not feeling Bob Chapek had any heart regarding how they were handling the furloughs and layoffs around COVID. Well, as it comes to light that Disney lawyers are trying to use a arbitration agreement, for Disney Plus to settle, to get out of litigation on a lawsuit of a restaurant at Disney Springs, which probably they're not even subject to anyway. Josh D'Amaro came out and said, okay, it's one thing to have the right to, it's another thing to actually do it. Let's have some heart. It's like, okay. That's very Igerish. And even just the way he handled Anaheim long before, this was a discussion, right? When they reset the relationship with Anaheim, kind of remove their desire to have subsidies and things like that. It was definitely more egalitarian than a hard executive would have been. I think, the softer side of Bob or Josh, excuse me.
So I mean, this is extremely presumptuous to put you in this spot or situation, because obviously these are incredibly skilled and talented executives to have risen to these ranks within, the company that is Disney. But advisory, thinking if you knew them and were somehow a colleague of these individuals, and you knew that they had their sights set on this role, what would be some of the insight? What would be some of the, kind of what, from your perspective, what would you be suggesting to them to improve their value, to improve their as kind of like, notice me for this position?
I don't know. My biggest advice to anyone who's in this conversation is shut up and listen. I think that was Bob Chapek's biggest fault, right? Was he was there supposed to work with Bob Iger, and nominally Bob Iger was still his boss, but he was, supposed to have sort of decision-making power to kind of show that he could do it. And why would you want to take someone who's considered the best at that job, best entertainment CEO currently, and, obviously the business has changed, but in quite some time, and think better? You may not agree, you may disagree, you may not do things exactly the way he would, but learn from the master and have some humility. And, you want to push back enough that shows that you're thinking, but also not push back that you seem stubborn. And, it never made sense to me if I was Bob Chapek that I was like, okay, this guy's going to be gone from the whole company in a year, but I'm going to have my little temper tantrum now, saying I don't get to play with all my toys. Just seemed silly. I mean, and I'm not. It would be like if I came into LP and was like, Doobie and Rebecca have know nothing, and I'm not going to listen to them, and it'd be stupid. And so, it doesn't mean you always need to agree on it, but
Correct.
the stubbornness on something trivial to not to knowingly burn that relationship in an effort to assert your own power was foolish. And
Miami Coffee coming in and saying, are they looking? Yes, they are actively seeking. And Bob said that when he came back, Mr. Iger, when he returned, he said, I'm coming back, but don't get used to me because I'm just here to ensure that there's a good succession. And they have announced today that James P. Gorman, a current member of the board, right? Yes, board member James P. Gorman is now chairing its succession planning committee. It has been announced. Kyle coming in and saying, worst managers I ever had were the ones who wanted to change things right away rather than learning about what and why we did what we did first. Yeah, corporate culture and corporate dynamics and that kind of thing, is such an interesting, there is value to it, but like Doobie points out, when he came in, there were many who were like,
I respectfully disagree.
I'm curious what your take is on Doobie's that's like a total fan take, right? Oh, get that Mike guy out of there.
But Bob was president under Michael for several years before he took the job. So he listened to Iger. He was Eisner. He was an Eisner yes man. We were concerned that he listened to Eisner too much. And then he came in, said, okay, here's what I saw Eisner do well. And here's what I saw Eisner didn't do well. And I'm going to pivot. And he didn't do it while he was president. And Michael Eisner was still CEO. He was not that stupid.
Yeah.
And, you're talking about a man who was promised to be named CEO of Cap Cities ABC until they Disney acquired him, and that became, not a position because it wasn't the parent company anymore. And he just, instead of leaving like many people do in that situation, he stuck it out and he learned and he became much more successful. Obviously I don't know what goes on in the conversations amongst the people who depart, but all these people that leave their jobs when they don't get the promotion they want never made sense to me, because that doesn't mean you never can, just means you're not ready yet. Or, they didn't pick you. Maybe they picked, all those people that left once they named Bob Chapek. Well, Bob Chapek lasted a year. And I don't know. I just think the other thing is some of the worst decisions at Disney were made because people felt they needed to leave their mark. They came into something, was working fine, and you do need it. Like, you don't want to keep it stagnant, but change just to change so that you changed is terrible. Change because you have a better idea or you find a way to improve it, not just because that was their name. I'm going to rebrand it because, every logo change is usually not because they need one, but because someone new came in and they feel they need to leave their mark.
Okay, so you're bringing back to mind that when Iger was first named, that there was some questioning of just how different will the Disney company look, because like you're pointing out, he was part of the team. So in thinking about these 4 candidates that seem to be the ones that keep being mentioned, again, they are Josh D'Amaro, Dana Walden, James Pitaro, and the other one's name not coming to me.
Alan Bergman.
Kind of give me, I don't want to say like a scorecard, like not like a true score, but like what are the aspects of these names that make you excited, and what are the aspects of these names that you kind of going, well, I'm uneasy there.
So I'm gonna start. Let me start with Jimmy Pitaro because he's probably the easiest.
Okay.
By all accounts, a good guy, a nice guy. has been able to. He has that Disney CEO look, that but I think his challenge is that his big task, which is to pivot ESPN, is not going to be done in time for this conversation. And so, and that's almost a CEO level job.
Mm-hmm.
And so, while other media business parts of the company are needing to figure out how to handle television and all that, ESPN is more critical than all those others combined, because they don't have, while there is ESPN Plus, it's not the same as Disney Plus and Hulu, which have been propping up the other media business. But it's there's so much nuance in there. You got to not kill the cable bundle right away, but you got to give people who are offering it, who want something else, give them an option. The venue sports injunction added another wrinkle to their plan, where they are not going to be launching venue sports, which was like a skinny bundle with Warner Brothers Discovery and Fox. But it's so there's a lot of work to be done. It's almost like he shouldn't leave, because that's maybe promote him to a different sort of elevated position, because that's a whole CEO type level position in and of itself. And I will say, a couple of disclaimers on this. One is, we do need to acknowledge they could pick an external candidate, as Starbucks just did.
Right.
And the structure of today might not necessarily be the structure of tomorrow, where you have a CEO and business unit executives. Michael Eisner had Frank Wells, obviously Walt and Roy, and then you had the triumvirate ears of Card Walker, Don Tatum, and Ron Miller. So, it doesn't need to be the way it is today if they choose that's not the best route. Oracle had co-CEOs.
As Kevin points out, Disney will survive.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
No.
There is no fear around these offices of LP that
it's not so much about surviving, it's about thriving. So, you have Paramount and Warner Brothers, who are, at much more perilous outlooks. But Disney, because of the balance between entertainment and theme parks, is on much more stable ground. And they also were able to navigate streaming, not as successful as Netflix, but much more than Max and Paramount Plus and whatever else is out there.
As I've mentioned before, the economic side of Disney is when I would call this guy to just, learn more and find out more, having the types of discussions like you're hearing now. And Kyle Burbank, our editor, is another one who is in that realm, and I'll reach out to you for more info. But because of that, I'm never quite sure, Ben, when he says stuff during this conversation, is he asking this sincerely or is this tongue-in-cheek?
That's tongue-in-cheek, because Brian Roberts basically owns Compact Cast. So
okay.
It's not really an option, but
okay. I'm like, I think this is a humor, but
yeah. So the CEO of Chipotle, the reason this came up is Starbucks is paying the former CEO of Chipotle a Brinks-load trek of money, much more than Bob Iger makes, to become CEO, and is letting him basically commute from California to Seattle in order to get him. So, it's funny, because I was thinking, like, everyone's always like, Bob Iger gets paid so much. I was like, not as much as the Starbucks guy is getting. So, everything's relative. And, I think we've seen what happens when Disney CEO is not, the right guy. So
have you had a chance to listen through the whole Kelly Ripa, Bob Iger conversation yet? No? Okay. I'm very interested in kind of what else was said. I haven't had a chance to hear it either, so I'll have to bug you about that later.
but I got Jimmy Pitaro. Dana Walden, by all accounts, is a very talented creative executive.
Oh, okay.
Probably the best in terms of like crafting shows, has good Hollywood relationships. I think there's some who would, love the idea of, a woman running a company of this size in the entertainment industry. Downsides, fairly new to Disney. If you're going to pick an internal candidate, she came to Disney not because she wanted to, but because Disney bought her, and which is the same that happened to Bob Iger. But how is she handling that transition is a question, and is more of a political animal, and is probably more willing to engage in culture war topics. And so, as Disney's trying to venture away from that, she's sort of become the poster child of that movement within Disney, whether rightfully or wrongfully is not really relevant. So, is Disney, that now that they're finally turning that corner, does Disney really want to, open up that conversation again? Which is a totally unfair criticism. I mean, every citizen has the right to have their own political beliefs and political contributions and things like that. And by all means, many Hollywood executives do. Just Disney, for some, it just becomes a talking point that it shouldn't be, but it is. So, but I say, how she's integrated with Disney culture, I'm not quite sure. Alan Bergman, once again, a very talented numbers guy, doesn't really have the longtime Disney, doesn't really have the Bob Iger savoir-faire, but neither did Bob Iger when he first started. So, that might fall into the outside coaching part, in terms of presence and engagement. Has not done a lot of the sort of public appearances that obviously like Josh does, but even Hugh Johnson does as CFO, not really out there as much. You see him occasionally at D23, but isn't as public, to the point where you wonder if is that CEO the kind of job he would want? I don't know, but. And then Josh, I think his biggest challenge is, can he show that the parks job can become the parks leader can become CEO of the Walt Disney Company. I think his biggest benefit, I do think his heart is actually in the right place. I don't know, long-time cast member working from, basically entry level to chairman fairly quickly. And while he has had missteps, I would say is probably the most fan savvy. I think there's parts of being a CEO of Disney that, unlike many other CEO jobs, is you are Walt on Sunday night. I don't mean that literally, but right. You are public facing more than. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mary Barra is here, head of GM. I don't know anyone who doesn't watch CNBC or really in the car industry really cares. Mm-hmm. Whereas everybody knows who Bob Iger is. More people know who Bob Iger is than Brian Roberts, Zaslav. I mean, if you're not in the town, I think Bob Iger's and Michael Eisner before him and Walt Disney, obviously. Not that Walt Disney was CEO, but you know what I mean. There's a part of that job that is the public ambassador that you can't delegate out. I mean, Bob Chapek tried, right? And it didn't. You're still the seat. The buck stops here kind of bit. Same thing with it's just like, presidential candidates. You could be the best tactician in the world, but if you can't give a speech, you're still not going to become president. So not necessarily fair or right, but it's the truth.
But once again, you're talking about how there's some question as to what the structure of a company will even be looking like in the next few years. So it'll be interesting to see if even that takes shape in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the axiom outside of Bob Iger, this company has always performed best when it's been led by two people, right? Walt and Roy, Michael and Frank, and. I was always surprised that Bob Iger didn't pick. I mean, he did with Tom Staggs, but more eminently and sort of long, pick a president not just for the sake of succession planning, but pick a president because you needed to split the job. And I think, it's hard because when you have two people in charge, it inherently creates a political dynamic. But at the same time, if you can actually complement each other and pick the two right people, right? You can't just pick two people from wherever. You got to pick two people who are bought into this concept that you're picking two people. And I think that's where a lot of times it falls apart is, just because, can you just picking names out, Josh and Dana, like put them together. Well, they don't know each other more. I mean, they work together, but is that going to work? I don't know.
So knowing that this position has now, this succession committee has a specific, chair, and knowing that Iger has said, did he say 2026? Did he put a date on his departure? Was it?
Well, his contract goes through 2026.
Okay, so knowing that he currently has a 2026 farewell in the contract, do you anticipate that that's what we'll see if he is going to be no longer CEO by 2026? When do you think we would have a vision of what who's coming in next?
I feel like 6 to 9 months. But I once again, I could be totally wrong. Yeah. That's because I was totally wrong last time and the time before that. So, this is the sort of, okay, I mean, you're not going to, if you're following along on the process, you're not going to name the chair today, right? They talk about it, but it doesn't mean a decision is imminent. But at the same time, you're not going to go through all this if a decision is years down the road. So, world events and big changes, I mean, Disney could be bought tomorrow by Apple and all of this becomes moot. So I'm not prognosticating that. I'm just saying weird things have happened. COVID, obviously, if COVID happened 6 months earlier, we wouldn't be in this whole trajectory would have changed, right? They wouldn't have let Bob Iger resign November of 2019 or whatever it was, or February, January, whatever it was. It was like months before COVID. If it waited a couple months, they'd be, trying to rearrange the chairs here and figure out what's going to happen. So, and I feel like we all in this post-COVID, post-rapid political world always just feel like, it's hard to name anything with any much certainty, given things seems to be changing very quickly on all fronts.
Yeah.
But I think, this is a sign that we're getting there, getting close. And I think it's also kind of you saw the signs of what Bob Iger was trying to do. First was right size the organization, right? Cut a lot of costs, cut a lot of content, just kind of, they took the write downs on Galactic Star Cruiser and other parks, and just kind of
and Disney
cut
Plus
their losses on stuff, just clean up the balance sheet, right? And then Nelson Peltz threw a little bit of a screwball in there, but then kind of reconstitute with what's left a future. So you obviously saw the park's future. I think you've seen some major changes at the studio that are not necessarily as visually apparent yet, but you'll see as movies get greenlit and proceed through production in the next 6 months. They're also performing better, obviously, with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Alien Romulus, Deadpool and Wolverine, Inside Out 2, all sort of punching above their weight. So you're seeing relative strength. And then you had D23, where the parks was able to kind of give where they're spending $60 billion, at least half of $60 billion. And so now you have, okay, here's the path forward, which allows you now time. You don't want to set somebody up without a vision. They will modify and tweak, but I don't think Bob wanted to be like, okay, do whatever you want now. I think he wanted to have a plan set so whoever's coming in is set up for success. And then, they can make the decisions that come to them as things go. And this company is all of entertainment is really looking at what happens with the election. And I don't mean whether they're endorsing one candidate or the other, but if Lena Khan is the head of the FTC or Lena Khan is not the head of the FTC, will result in major changes to the entertainment landscape than one way or the other. And it's that also doesn't mean if Lena Khan's gone, and given that Donald Trump is not what I would call a conventional Republican, that we also don't know what that would look like, what his FTC led would look like. And so, the big acquisitions that occurred, I'm not talking like Marvel or Lucasfilm, which were, I would say, IP acquisitions that there was no sort of, but something like the 21st Century Fox acquisition or Warner Brothers purchasing Discovery or those kinds of things may not have happened if they happened 2 years later. So I think everyone doesn't really know what that's going to look like until, and doesn't really want to waste resources until they know what landscape they're dealing with. And the election is too close to really guess either way.
Kind of put your ducks in a row regarding what the leadership will look like within that field. Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic of the election that kind of keeps us in a bit of a holding pattern.
Yeah, I mean, you're not talking super long wait here.
No.
I mean, I think if Kamala wins, they will know. They can proceed at that point. If Donald Trump wins, I think that will throw a lot of uncertainty into it. I'm not saying that I'm not endorsing anybody, but then it may take a little bit longer to see what they're going to do, because I don't think it's no secret he's a little bit more of a quixotic leader.
One's a more known quantity, so you can start to assess and move forward. Where's the other?
Yeah, I mean, it's an incumbent situation anyway, right? Like, okay, right. So if you're incumbent, you're just going to keep. I mean, she's not technically an incumbent, but
yes, it's a continuation of what you've already been operating.
Right, yeah, so.
Whereas the other transition to the unknown. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah. So, I know it was expected, but does this have you positive? Is that when you saw this, did this have a positive reaction or disappointed? Were you hoping that maybe he was you know what I mean? Because like I say, we just saw him at D23. Did you come out of D23 thinking, okay, maybe he's not going to disappear in 2026?
No, I didn't, but also it made it feel real. I mean, it's like, I mean, I when I think of my life 20 years down the line, I know my dogs aren't probably got part of that, but I don't like to think about it until the moment comes, and this is making the moment real. And it's sad. I mean, I think, and no one's perfect. And in this Kelly Ripa thing, he talked about how he screwed up, talking about the whole ABC divestiture. But he is
the Kelly Ripa
interview successful.
Before you go, let me grab that moment. Before, is the Kelly Ripa interview where he kind of talked about how he made a comment regarding linear being at the core or something along those lines?
He talked about how Disney would look at selling, ABC, basically. He floated that in a David Faber interview from Sun Valley just about a year ago, 14 months ago.
Yeah.
And, what he acknowledged is, he was trying to signal, hey, we're open to all these new ideas. What he didn't fully understand, I don't know why he didn't, but, the people who actually work there will be freaked out when you say, hey, our business may not be part of Disney in 5 years. Because you got to walk that line. I mean,
yes,
you don't want to keep an asset just because you're worried about the people, being upset they're not part of Disney. But at the same time, if you're not actually going to do it, there's no need to cause all that strife until, you make that decision. And, it happens all these times that, like, Paramount's doing it right now, where they are obviously going to be cutting a lot of costs, and I'm sure they're frozen. They have to do it. They don't have a choice. But I'm sure it's really hard to get your actual work done and come up with the enthusiasm. I mean, even Disney saw it when they did the layoffs. The company wasn't running perfectly, it was running worse because people were freaking out. It's not until you say, okay, layoffs are done, let's rebuild what we got, let's move forward, let's have excitement. I mean, I think that's why Disney has things like D23, is to build excitement for it.
Like, the Rivers of America.
Well, I mean, it's not wrong. I mean, we like it. We don't. How upset would we have been if Josh says, "Okay, yeah, we're going to be, building cars in Frontierland, and we're going to start construction tomorrow. The Liberty Bell Riverboat has had its last run." I mean, you don't want to do that.
That would have let all the air out the room, wouldn't it?
I mean, because I know he wanted to show that construction was starting, right? Like it almost was like, please don't let it mean that you're afraid dinosaurs are closing tomorrow. And he did it. He went out of his way to kind of say, okay, all these things, you're gonna have some time, but
and in the case of Rivers of America, you're not going to blindside the team that are going to work there tomorrow.
Right.
That's the other thing is. It's nice if they're able it's nice if they're able to kind of let the team know before they're closing down the area that it's coming. And I understand where in this case you can't do that beforehand, because then it would probably leak out that this big project's coming. So
the statute of limitations is that I'm not the one who did this, but when I was in Fantasyland, working in Fantasyland, when they decided to rename the carousel, I think it was Cinderella's Golden Carousel, to Prince Charming Regal Carousel.
Okay.
And they did it as a test to see, after they told the cast, how long would it take for it to show up online.
Oh, how
funny. And it took about 2 seconds. Like I don't think I got up from the conference room table and it was online already. And
wow.
They kind of said, okay, yeah, this is, you tell the cast members, it's as well as putting it on the parks blog.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And speaking of Paramount, Edgar Bronfman Jr. just increased his bid to $6 billion for National Amusements and their sort of controlling stake in Paramount. So no matter how messed up you think Disney is, at least they're not Paramount.
Oh, Paramount Plus, that app drives me crazy. And unfortunately, there's shows I enjoy that I have no way to access unless I have Paramount Plus.
Well, I think Paramount, as a Disney fan, you see, so Paramount, what happened was they had these assets that were producing a lot of cash, right? These cable companies just produce a lot of cash because you get paid regardless if anyone watches it or not, right? You get more money if there's people watch it, but you get paid no matter what. And so then they basically strip mined them, cut a lot of the costs out of them. And so that Philip DeMol could get bigger and bigger bonuses. And then he leaves and you end up with these underperforming cable channels while the cable business is perilous as it is. So, and just a general, they made money by spending less money. And thankfully, for the most part, Disney doesn't employ that strategy. And while they do cost cuts, that's not, they do cost cuts to be efficient. They don't do cost cuts to, show growth. They grow by growing. And, it'd be the same as like, instead of building new attractions to become more profitable, they just closed half of them. So,
can I ask?
And be glad you're not a Paramount fan. But then that's probably why there's not like Paramount. There's no P24 or whatever.
Can I ask you to engage in some reckless speculation?
Sure.
Okay, so back when they were canceling Disney Plus shows, numerous of them just disappeared from the service. So the other day, they announced The Acolyte is canceled. It is not returning. Do you anticipate it to vanish, have the thing of Willow, or do you think it just won't come back like we've seen with Obi-Wan?
No, I don't expect it to vanish. I think they've changed the way they calculate the cost of those shows so that it's more front loaded.
Okay.
And so the benefit is, it is to remove them is negligible. And I also, the Acolyte is canceled. I would be shocked if we don't see further storytelling involving threads left by Acolyte. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not 5 years from now. But Star Wars has a way of having things that are 20 years old suddenly become very popular amongst that fandom. Prequels, Clone Wars. Sometimes these things just need a set, and then people say, Solo, Star Wars story. These things that were not necessarily considered initially successful with that franchise become more successful as I think people just learn to accept them. And if I had to rate, and I'm with no disrespect to Star Wars fans, that fandom is the hardest to work with amongst the Disney, Marvel, Star Wars. If I had to pick the three, I don't mean they're the worst. I just mean they're the hardest to work with because they have some sort of, I think because it was so limited in scope when it, for so long that it becomes very dogmatic. You hear a lot of, that's not the way it really happened. And a lot of, there's a lot of headcanon, a lot of speculation, which just makes it really hard to tell these stories. Whereas Marvel just has people will be critical of their performance, but they don't take it as seriously.
And I would argue that that's indicative of the creatives. I don't think the Marvel creatives take it as seriously as the Lucasfilm creatives. I don't find that Marvel even treats their product in the same seriousness that Lucasfilm treats theirs. So I think they've kind of, I guess what I'm trying to say is, for me, I feel like they've cultivated the fandom they have. But
no, it's funny because
a much larger topic for me to debate someday. But
well, it's funny though because I was at the Legend ceremony and they had talked about Steve Ditko and he's like, he's like, he just thought he'd make funny books. Like, we think that he did, he mastered the art form, and which he did, but he didn't take that job seriously. If you're talking about a business run by Stan Lee, nothing he took seriously, right? It was just about having fun, and so whereas, yeah, I can see it. And I'm not. George Lucas takes his work much more seriously than Kevin Feige does.
Like I say, a much bigger topic for another discussion.
And I love them both, and I love the fans of them both. They're not the same.
Oh man, it's just amazing to me how, since we started Laughing Place back in 1999, the way the Disney company has grown. As far as when I was first using search engines like Ask Jeeves and Dogpile, I think, or something like that. I don't even remember all the names of the ridiculous search engines I was using in order to cultivate information. Because back then, the internet actually cost you money depending on how much you used it. And so my goal was to aggregate for you for our readers, the best, Disney news and information. And over time it's grown. And then Ben came on, and we have a team of people who do that now. And I just get to be founder and pop in and talk about fun stories like this. Trying to think, Benji, I think we about covered it. We let everybody know that James P. Gorman has been named the chair of the Succession Planning Committee, as Bob Iger's contract will be ending in 2026. And he told Kelly Ripa in a podcast that aired today, you can find that over on Spotify and other, podcast catchers, that I'm guessing that he is obsessed. He would label his desire to find and establish that succession plan an obsession. That was Iger's word, obsession. So there you go, front of mind. And currently Ben is obsessed with something else, and maybe we'll find out what in. Oh, seriously?
So I got this as do you know the thing about obsession in cats?
No.
So there's something about obsession that big cats, like can't control themselves around it. They love it. And so they use it in zoological purposes. That's like enrichment and training. And so I got it
Visiting
for
a
a
lot of
joke.
zoos.
What's that?
So you're visiting a lot of zoos, and you just
No. But like, I had some sort of joke in mind 10 years ago when we found this out with Alex about like, yeah, look, I want to get all the tiger. Like maybe I was going to see a baseball game with the Tigers or something. I don't know what I was doing, but it's been in my desk forever. But yeah, I learned it through Nat Geo. But if you Google obsession big cats, it's all over there. There's a 2013 article from Nat Geo called "Big Cats Wild for Calvin Klein Cologne." And did you know that tigers and jaguars are attracted to obsession for men?
Okay, so when you write this up for your Benji's thoughts, I don't know, do you have a name for your column that you do regularly on LP now?
So I have the Disney Digest, which is usually more, little paragraphs on various topics. I'm not writing this up, but
Oh, because I was going to say, if you talk about this Iger obsession thing, you could somehow work in the, Nat Geo Cologne angle.
I'm gonna just leave it there. Yeah. So no, I can't tell that story.
Good at it.
But yeah, you can. But it's definitely one of those things that I only know because Disney bought Nat Geo. Like the list of things I only know because of Disney, random, not like Disney history, but just random facts I know because of Disney. That would definitely be one of them. Is that if you're going on a safari, do not wear obsession for men.
Oh, for those of you who are unaware of the breadth of information you'll find on Laughing Place throughout today, we have had news of Lorcana. We've had some updates on television programming, whether it's Hulu, ABC, Disney parks as well. So lots of news and information constantly being updated over here at Laughing Place. I like to say if it's going to move the meter, if it has a chance of moving that stock price, moving that Disney stock price, you will find out about it here. In fact, if you read Laughing Place regularly, a lot of what you would have seen on the show floor, you would have already been somewhat familiar with because you would have read about it or been aware that it was coming from Laughing Place. And then you could have learned a little bit more about it there on the show floor at D23.
So I guess you're talking a lot about this new CEO of Starbucks.
Yes.
I guess he made his first major decision, which probably isn't his decision, but I guess the pumpkin products are coming out tomorrow.
That was already on the calendar, I know, because the women in my life are obsessed with pumpkin spice and it's been on their calendar.
So is it for Flower Garden or Food and Wine? One of them, they do like a tour of the tea garden at the UK Pavilion.
Okay.
And so they're talking about the different kinds of tea, and then she goes like, oh yeah, we even have a pumpkin spice version. Why are you guys so obsessed with pumpkin? Like, to me, it's just a vegetable. Like, what's with you and Americans and pumpkin? And we're trying, like, yeah, I guess it is weird. Like, there's like, if you go to Target, there's whole aisles of pumpkin.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, our supermarket has a whole end cap right now. You have pumpkin spice Cheerios, pumpkin spice coffees, pumpkin spice cocos. Yes, and all it means for me is that it's about to get cold, and so PSL for me means Rebecca's cranky.
Well, not when it comes out in August. I mean,
it's not my fault they moved up but before, back when it was more of an autumnal thing, yeah.
No. It's like that's the thing. Is like my getting cranky is Christmas because you have the fall's fine, Halloween, Thanksgiving's nice. It can start getting cold, but then you say have Christmas spirit, and then once Christmas happens, then all you have is cold.
Yep.
There's nothing to look forward to. There's not no one's like, woohoo, President's Day. Like, it's just cold.
Exactly.
And it was worse in Florida because in Florida, it wasn't as cold like every day, but when it got cold, and I had, that when I was there, I had to be outside a lot. It was cold. And then you would just like, please don't make me go to Epcot and walk under Spaceship Earth. Please don't make me walk under Spaceship Earth. That wind tunnel of evil.
Oh man, that wind tunnel. I'm checking my Dunkin' app right now to see if they're moving into their seasonal flavors yet. So I'll have to check that out. So, but the good thing about this time of year is that Bath and Body Works, that's when they start to have all their really yummy scented stuff, and then Christmas time is when their super yummy scented stuff comes. But you begin to kind of move into that more bakery flavors in the fall.
I just get hungry because, like, I don't know, just fall winter food. Like, I mean, think turkey and stuffing and pumpkin pie and
So
whatever you.
getting back to Disney as we wrap up, I'm curious kind of what are you watching? What are you consuming within that Disney company realm within the next 24? What's on your kind of Disney company plate?
Well, so I mean, what I've been watching is sort of news, sports, and documentary. So I mean, I've been watching ABC News coverage of the Democratic National Convention, just
Okay.
not because I want to, but because I feel like I have to, which is a me problem. Not I don't recommend it. I don't recommend any political. I'm not making a DNC, RNC. No endorsement here.
Wow, so many
But
caveats. Just say
yeah,
I don't like to watch politics, but I do it because I want to be informed.
right. But I've been watching the Little League World Series on ESPN
Okay.
and Ocean Explorers when all that's done at the end of the night. The new Nat Geo series on Disney Plus, which is about this vessel that's been doing a lot of very interesting stuff. It's sort of narrated and hosted by James Cameron, um, but that's not really important. And it was funny. I watched the Polar Bear episode last night, and they had pictures, like video of polar bears. I was like, they just took that from the Disney Nature Polar Bears documentary. Like it was, it was established. I was like, and then I waited through the credits. You know how like it minimizes and you have to go click it to see it again. And I was like, oh, yep, additional footage courtesy of Disney Nature. So thank you, Disney Nature, for helping this National Geographic tell me all about polar bears yesterday.
Oh,
What do
that
you want?
reminds me, you talking about wading through stuff. So yesterday, there was a trailer for this new Indiana Jones game that's coming later this year, and I was watching it and got super excited when I spotted the Temple of the Forbidden Eye in the footage. I'm like, okay, I'm this. First of all, the pacing of the game seems like pacing I can handle, unlike Fortnite. Even though Disney announced Fortnite and all this, I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to have to rely on the talented gamers who provide clips on YouTube or Twitch or whatnot for me to catch on to any canon that changes because of Fortnite within Disney or Marvel or Star Wars or whatever. But the Indiana Jones game that's coming out, I want to say December 9th or so. That looks like it's paced where I could actually play the game, step into that world of Indiana Jones for a little bit. That looks like some fun, and I was very happy to see Temple of the. I watched the trailer looking for Tropical Americas. I was hoping for like to find more Tropical Americas info, and ended up seeing Mariglyphs. I was like, oh, that's cool.
I went down a Fortnite rabbit hole over the weekend. So after it took me so long to like actually get the game to load, and then I realized
Yes.
I don't know what I'm doing. So I played the Lego version for a bit. It
Okay.
was like basically my understanding is like there's a Fortnite platform, and then you go into there's different games. There's the Battle Royale, which is like the most popular, which is shoot 'em up. But then I played that's a little Lego War Machine from Marvel, and did my
Uh-huh.
little task, which I thought was fun, but not as it doesn't have that plot point stuff that so so I decided that when Maxon gets back from his time off that he needs to do like a Fortnite 101 for Disney fans so we all know like not so much even just for Fortnite but when this new digital project
Yeah.
comes I can't the completionist in me is not going to let myself just not know what's going on so
Right.
um, I need to get I want to practice on Fortnite so when this other thing launches I'm ready to go.
Exactly. It's like even though I haven't really played Lorcana yet, I have the app in my phone so I can, just kind of look at the art and be familiar with Lorcana. So, yep, Disney
I played
complete.
Lorcana. I collected Lorcana for a bit and then it was like too much too fast so I kind of was like I don't have time for this
Okay.
but I played it once. I won, and I was like, okay, we're kind of retired because I won, and then did you see the trailer for Bricktoons?
No, I haven't.
Let me put it in the chat here.
Okay.
So it's like a Lego short series based off of Pixar, coming to Disney Plus September. I want to say September 5th.
Should I air it? Should I put it up
You
while we're
can.
chatting?
Whatever you think is best.
Let me share my screen.
No, sorry, September 4th. 2 weeks.
Where are we going? On an epic journey.
I hope you guys can hear that.
Journey. Yes, it worked. We're back, don't they?
Let me know
the first.
I can't hear it.
I can hear it. Good.
This looks like fun.
Yeah, so we'll see. You know, it's fine. It's great to see Pixar films finally represented in animation.
You're us first. Here we go again.
So I guess there's 5 episodes debuting September 4th. They're shorts. I don't know how shorts, but there's Cars, Brave, Incredibles, Finding Nemo, and Coco, I believe.
That's adorable.
Just keep building. Just keep building. Just keep building.
Oh, just keep
building.
Oh, that's fun. I love Lego. That's like my favorite. My favorite. That's my unwinding. Is I'll go play Skywalker Saga, Lego, that Lego game that they did. So I've completed a lot of it, and now I'm going back and like filling in the gaps on it. And yeah, I dive in there. Inca Joe coming in saying cool. I still say we need to sit down sometime, Ben, and come up with a list of all the things we would never, ever have done. But because Disney Company, it fell under the Disney Company umbrella, we ended up doing it because Disney being Disney completists is our addiction. And so we've ended up.
Some of the best decisions I've made have been like, oh, well, it's Disney. I should give it. I mean, I saw the World Series.
I know. That's my favorite, is we attended a World Series because it was like, Disney owns them. Let's get season tickets.
And basically all of my sports knowledge, if Disney didn't have ESPN, would be non-existent. So thanks, Disney. But you know the hardest thing I ever had to do, and because of that. So when I worked at California Adventure, we had, I think for 2 years, Super Soap weekends.
Yes.
And so I was like, well, if I'm going to work Super Soap weekends, I better get to know soaps. I mean, no disrespect to the people that love them. And it's probably not something you should, get into for a week. But that was rough.
Can I? Oh, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to edit. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. This Acolyte thing is really under my skin. Okay. And the reason why it popped back in my head is because you mentioned soaps. And for me, recent Lucasfilm Disney Plus series have felt paced like a soap opera. It's like very little happens from week to week, such that, you can like disappear for long periods of time, come back, and still, that's kind of the beauty of soaps, I feel, right? That's kind of, you leave for a while, you come back, and you have some ideas to what's going on because you're invested in the characters. And that's kind of how I felt with the Star Wars. And so then for you to get invested and then have them pulled away, and they keep doing, when they announced Acolyte, I was like, I'm not watching. I'm going to wait. And once the series is over and I know whether or not they've told a full story that's satisfying, then I'll binge it, because I don't want to get all sucked in and get left high and dry again. And after the first 2 episodes, and they're like, oh, look at these amazing numbers we're getting, record streams. I'm like, oh, okay, well, they're invested in the series, right? And so I watched it, and then I'm at D23, and there's Manny Jacinto, and everybody, woo! It was like so crowded at the booth. I'm like, woo! And then boom, again, I got invested and ripped away. And I tell you that this Skeleton Crew, I don't want to watch it. I want to let it just go and finish its thing. And then once it's done, hear from y'all whether or not it was a full story. And if it was a full story, then binge it. But I don't want to watch it from the beginning because I'm tired of the cycle.
Well, so there's a couple of differences.
Okay.
One is, I would hope, given that they waited like 42 years to release Skeleton Crew, and it's based on children, that this is not the kind of thing where you want to come back 5 years later and, say 6 months later, here's this part 2. I would hope you tell a complete story. It is also produced by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, who are, at least, at basic, Dave Filoni is the chief creative officer of Lucasfilm and was noticeably silent about Acolyte. So it made me believe that maybe he did not fully endorse that show. So I think it is far more likely that the Skeleton Crew storyline will either be wrapped up or will lead into something that's more, maybe it ties into Mandalorian and Grogu, or, something tangible.
Because with Boba Fett, I feel like they pulled him away from me midway through the series. They didn't even they introduced me to him, love him, and then, oh wait, this is actually Mando and Grogu's continuing adventures. You just didn't know it. I was like,
yeah, I mean, there's been some weird choices.
I just, like I say, I'm feeling a little.
I will also
like Ahsoka. You have Ahsoka back. Oh wait, we're gonna strand her off in the, and I understand why. I mean, as far as like just timeline, I get it, but I don't know. Even that, I felt like
that's not going to be the end of Ahsoka's story.
It just was, I don't know.
But I would say the other thing too is this: I'd be shocked if we do not see Manny Jacinto again in a Star Wars.
Oh yeah. Oh no, me too. Oh, frankly,
I just don't think it's going to be Acolyte season 2.
Yeah,
And with television, there's very specific contractual things that happen when it regards to renewing a show versus just that these intertwined projects don't really don't really meet. It's meant more for we make a show, find out if it's canceled or renewed. If it's canceled, it's over. If it's renewed, it's renewed. Like a more simplistic sort of vision of television. So I do not think. I don't think in our lifetime, and I don't know when, that we will not know more about Darth Plagueis and The Stranger and all those folks.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to be as eminent. And I kind of feel like they made that decision before they released the show.
I just keep feeling like I'm watching Star Wars prologues. I mean, that's just.
Well, that's what you are. I mean, you right?
And I know, and I'm kind of worn on that. I kind of want something a little bit more. I don't know, a little bit more. So I'm nervous on this, and I was nervous on Acolyte, and I let myself. It's one of those things where I feel like I went in with the right mindset, and I should have stuck with my mindset. Because then, honestly, I would have sat and I would have binged the series, knowing I'm not getting any more than this, and I would have been fun. You know what I mean? I just would have had a different kind of expectation. So, Miami Coffee asking you, is there a chance Incredibles 3 before end of year? Do we know the date on these things? No.
Not you're like, if you're going to have it before the end of the decade.
Okay. I don't pay attention to future dates, Miami Coffee.
They haven't even started production on it. So you're talking at least 3 or 4 years.
Cool. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap it up around here?
No, I'm just going to check to make sure nothing happened while we're chatting that we should address.
For those of you who enjoyed our Disney banter, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we pop up around here all the time discussing the latest Disney news. We also journey into the parks when things change up, like we just took a walk along the reopened pathway between New Orleans Square and Galaxy's Edge that includes Critter Country, which will become Bayou Country when Tiana's reopens. Even though the Mark Twain spiel has already changed and refers to it as Bayou Country, map says Critter Country, and they announced it will change with Tiana.
Yeah, no, it's just funny because like we have these discussions, and you go like, Yeah, no one at Disney thought of that. Although, like, put that much effort into think about it. So I have one question before we wrap up. What's your favorite Disney at this moment? Disney fall thing that you're looking forward to?
What's coming this fall that I'm looking forward to?
Just not even this fall, but like, is it Halloween parties at the park, or pumpkin food at the parks, or 31 Nights of Halloween, or
when
the
fall
fall
rolls
TV
around, what do I
season,
look
the
for?
Emmys? Usually movies are pretty crappy in the fall, but what Disney and fall? What's like the thing you're like, okay, here's what I'm excited for the fall, the new fiscal year?
Yeah, our New Year's celebration. I look forward to our October 1st New Year's celebration. Yes, I do. I do look forward to that. Yeah, I don't know. This is like the down. This for me is kind of the lull before the holiday insanity, before Christmas insanity rolls in, because then it's just like all things. I love all things Disney Christmas time, and so then it gets really intense. But this
That's what I used
season,
to say, but the parks have become so busy around Halloween.
it used to be food and wine. I would be getting ready to be excited for food and wine. Yeah, Doobie's looking forward to our upcoming trip to Hawaii, but that's not, Cecil. That's just the Mosleys happen to be getting ready to finally take a trip to Aulani. Bucket list for me. So yeah. And I mean, even like the fall preview season, that doesn't feel like it's as much of a thing, because that used to be a big thing this time, you'd be like,
Get
okay,
the TV guide, go through page by page,
yeah,
and then you had to pick what you're going to watch Tuesday at 8 because you
yeah.
had to pick one.
Yeah, I was just having that chat with our team that I miss the communal nature of TV prime time. How you kind of knew a percentage of the populace were all getting together around 8 o'clock on a Tuesday to watch whatever, or Wednesdays at 9 or something. I mean, it's funny, but in some ways, these national conventions have given us a bit more of that, because we're all kind of, that's the only way to watch it at the moment.
Well,
But
certainly the Olympics did too. But
yeah, Olympics did it as well. Yeah,
but
see, like he says, ABC Showcase at DCA.
ABC primetime preview. That's where I first saw Lost on the big screen.
At Golden Dream Theater, right?
No, is that they ran out the AMC.
Oh, they put it at the AMC?
Yeah, the first 2 episodes of Lost.
That still crushes me that we didn't get to go to that. That was like one of those tough things.
And they what was I gonna say? Oh, I do think though, like at least Disney Plus is starting to do like more realistic release times.
Yes.
So like you can actually, for the marquee product, the
Yes.
Marvel, Star Wars, even I think Percy Jackson and some of those things where it's like you can watch it and in many ways nationwide, which you couldn't do before, back in the old TV days, and have that conversation as it's happening. So much more fun. Now, granted, if you're on an ad plan, your timing is going to be different, but I think that, to me, it was puzzling they didn't start that way. Like, who releases something at midnight? And you'd wake up and you'd be like, I cannot look at my phone until I see this stupid episode.
Correct. Yeah.
Especially, I remember that with WandaVision, because every episode had its own, and you're like, I don't even want to hear the song until. So you're watching it kind of with one eye open, be like, I got the whole.
No, it's true. It's true. The worst when it came to that was when they did and it wasn't Disney. It was when Netflix dropped the Gilmore Girls stuff the way they did. It was like, oh, because I don't want to get spoiled by anybody, and I just wanted to watch it, and it was like, oh, it's 4 hours or whatever. It's like, oh. But yeah, no, I'm glad that. Yeah, I'm excited for something. I don't know what. I'm excited.
Eventually, I'm gonna say is the one thing that I'm just always a bundle of anxiety, because every time Disney does something right, it means work for us, and you got to figure out how we're gonna cover everything and all that.
Yeah.
But there's
What's
so
on the
much
horizon that way?
What's that?
Is there one of those on the horizon, like some South by Southwest TSCA?
There's not something like that, but I would just say I feel like there's so many shoes to drop regarding cruise line. Like we know Adventure is launching next year, but we don't know when. We know we're waiting for the Destiny. We know it's in November, but we don't actually have dates of the sailings yet. The Treasure, this isn't so much a guest facing question, but like how we're going to cover that and what's the plan for that. So to me, there's a lot of outstanding DCL topics, whereas the parks are not building anything, so we, or at least not eminently, so we don't have to worry about them.
It's so funny coming out of D23, but whatever. Where all the talk was about how everything's happening, and then no.
Well, I mean, it's happening. It just these things don't get built in a day.
I know.
We're excited. I think we're excited to learn more about Disneyland 70th, but we also know Disneyland 70th will be, fireworks, parade, maybe, stage show. Yeah. Like not, it's not. They're not building a brand new, exciting attraction. So.
Yeah, not exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we've, kind of covered what's going on. It's time for me to go pay attention to my Bitly. No, is it Bit? Oh man, now I can't remember the name of the thing. My cute little Disney digital pet.
Oh yeah, what is that thing called?
I think it's Bitly. Bitsy. My little Bitsy. Got to go pay attention to my little Bitsy so my Disney pal won't run away. It's nice. It's not as demanding as Tamagotchis were, but you do have to pay them some attention, or they run away, and then you have to get them back.
Yeah. See, like I have enough hard time taking care of the people I need to take care of. Like I would have been all over that as a kid, but my real dogs, I have to pay attention to them like legally, and so I'm like. I'm not. There's a part of my life when I was craving responsibility. That part is well past.
You have plenty of responsibility.
I don't want anything more.
No, I'll let you babysit my Disney.
Yeah, well, I'll take care of your loved ones, such as your Bitly. What kind of creature is it?
It's a lot of them.
Oh, okay.
So what happens is after you it launches with maybe Mickey Mouse. And you interact with him for a while, which fills up a star. And once that star is filled, then another character is revealed. And when you interact with that one for enough time and the star fills up, another character is revealed. And then periodically you have to interact with them as your assortment of Disney pals that are all within this little box are all revealed. And it's fun. And they have little, some of them have little games. Only a few of them, but I want to say there's as many as 30 characters in the Bitsy. So I know I've unlocked Mickey and I've unlocked Olaf and Hey. So it's a lot of fun. I don't know. I enjoy it. So like I say, I'll let you babysit sometimes so you can take care of
kill your Bitsy.
My Bitsy Dura. Well, they don't want that was the thing. I mean, in all fairness, you don't want to have people, oh no, I killed Mickey Mouse. That would not work well. So
okay, yes, true. That would not be good.
Yeah, so therefore it's one of those more of, I guess he kind of, goes on a jaunt if he doesn't get enough attention, and then you
have you ever been to a bowl game?
Like as in football bowl?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
I've never been to one because UCLA was either never good enough or, the timing wasn't right. But ESPN just put out their bowl game predictions. And so I'm trying to see if UCLA is going to make a bowl this year. One person has them in the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. You can tell it's a good bowl because it is on December 28th. Let's see if there's any other predictions here. Nope, that's it. So, I guess I might be going to Shreveport. Probably not.
Oh, there's another thing that's happened because I'm a Disney fan. I downloaded the DraftKings app at some point, even though I don't even bet in any way, shape, or form. I never bet. But I was like, oh, let me see what this DraftKings thing is all about, because it's like in my face all the time, right? So a few days ago, I got an email telling me that some bet had been placed. I'm like, I didn't place any bet. So now I'm pulling up the app, trying to make sure. I don't even remember giving my credit card, so I have no idea how this. And then, sure enough, I get an email the next day. There was an error in our system, and you probably received notice that you had placed it. There was nothing made. There was no. Don't worry, your account is totally safe. Yada yada. I was just like,
I downloaded the ESPN bet app out of
Yeah,
curiosity,
I haven't
despite
done
the
that
fact
one.
it's not legal in the state I'm in. But like, I have it. It just I will never place a bet on it. But you know,
but yeah, these are the things. These are the things that happen when you're like.
have you noticed what of a disaster ESPN bet has become?
No, I haven't. What's up with it? We got.
So
You got
so it's run by a group called Penn Gaming, and so Disney, or yeah, I guess Disney outsources, licensed it to ESPN brand to this group, Penn Gaming, and since then their stock has gone, and so
Oh, really?
because it seems like from I guess the complaints I'm saying, one is that people who are into gaming have their app already, and there's not a lot of incentive to change. I've also seen that it's not as generous of like promotional offers as other gaming outfits are. So it seems to they seem to be. I'm just googling. Penn's digital business has eaten nearly $2 billion without results. So I don't know. I saw a headline where it said like Bob Iger is probably asking, we sacrificed our values for this.
Oh no.
I think it's a little more complicated than that, but like, yeah.
Well, since we're talking ESPN and Bulls, it's the 10th anniversary of the Marvel crossover with Disney and ESPN. Because what they do, I learned at D23, is there's this cover here. It's Iron Man cover, classic Iron Man cover. Well, they use that as an inspiration for football games, college football games. So Labor Day weekend, we're gonna have Miami at Florida, and so you end up with this cover, how the gator there and the duck over there. See, so there you go. But can I say Miami at Florida? And isn't that, I don't know. I don't pay enough attention.
Can I ask you a question?
I'm not a sports person. Yeah, and then I got to take a picture with Brutus as realized in the Marvel universe. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question for someone who says they're not a sports fan.
See, here's me.
You were very excited to meet Ryan McGee.
I was.
Can you talk about your appreciation of Ryan McGee, who covers the SEC, like college football, motorsports, and Star Wars for ESPN, as I believe his beats?
That's why I'm a big fan of a team player. And so the fact that there's this guy over at ESPN, and by the way, they often will podcast from the Wilderness Lodge, him and Marty Smith. I remember a couple of times they've been over at the Contemporary, so they're there and they got that beautiful Bay Lake view in the background. I just love it when somebody who is not like a Disney creative ends up under that Disney umbrella and then fully embraces the reality that they could have Disney fun. And so to see him at the D23, I was really hoping that he was going to be part of the launch of the Country Bear Jamboree when they redid that, because like I say, he's part of that. I want to say Southern culture, because you got the NASCAR, you got the college sports. That's more dominant within kind of the Southern U.S. And in that ESPN world. And so to have him then, once Disney, the dynamic of Disney comes in, now he's on a podcast talking about, they did a draft because, ESPN. So along with Teddy Bruschi and some others, I want to say Clinton Yates, but I'm not 100%. You would remember it was Clinton Yates. They did a draft of Star Wars critters to create, in essence, a football team, which was funny because I don't know that that's exactly how they intended to go into it, but that's what it ended up being, was if you were to craft a football team from Disney Critter. And you couldn't, and by critter, it was defined as, it wasn't like communicative. It didn't have so it wasn't going to be a Wookiee. You were going to have things like Dianoga, which, by the way, I've never been a huge fan of Teddy Bruschi, honestly. But he picked Dianoga for his football team. That is my favorite within that Star Wars creatures realm. I got my Dianoga sitting by my desk all the time. And so the fact that he did that, so now I'm a big fan. So if I see him someday, I'll be like, Dianoga, yes, you are correct. So yeah, so no, so that's one of the cool things about D23 is I saw Ryan McGee. He was sitting there talking to Ashley Eckstein. I'm assuming it was some bit that ended up somewhere on ESPN, them talking about the podcast, Never Tell Me the Odds, which is a bunch of ESPN guys talking Star Wars. Their discussions throughout Acolyte were so interesting. I really enjoyed them, enjoyed their draft. And got to tell him I was enjoying it. And then he goes, well, my producer's over there. So I got to go chat with her and tell her how much I enjoyed it and let her know that Teddy Bruschi had got a fan because he had picked Dianoga. So, there you go. So that's the thing I'm a soft touch when it comes to that kind of thing. You pick a Dianoga and I go, oh, you're a nice guy. I like you. Like when I had no interest in the Jeff Goldblum show. But then he was at D23, and I don't even remember what he did. But I was like, "Oh, I'll go check that out." Okay, cool. That was he was delightful. So I'll go, check out the Jeff Goldblum show that ran for a little bit on D+. So,
Miami Coffee has a question. Will there be an update to Spaceship Earth in the next few years? Tough question. It is a tough. I don't know. There was going to be an update as far as
yes, they're adding a lounge.
Yeah, so they are adding a lounge. I would not say, yes.
I don't think that's what they need.
Yeah, the Siemens Lounge is now going to be open to the public as a new space. But, I don't know that I would not say it's unlikely, given that it's sort of time. And, it's not a huge project to update it. I don't think you're going to see any major changes, but maybe, change the ending, change the post-show. I would not shock me, but nothing's been announced. Or have I heard any whispers of that project being revived? So it might be a bit, after Test Track, perhaps.
Okay. And then finally, as we wrap up, we've been talking for a little bit now. Finally, last question. What tidbit or piece of information did you come away from D23 with? Whether it be, I don't want it to be like forward thinking, like, oh, I didn't know they were going to do Cars Land in the middle of Magic Kingdom. Not that, but I mean, something about Disney history, theme parks, movies, something. What tidbit did you come out of D23 that you didn't know before?
I didn't know that Riley, and I brought this up to Alex, and he's like, how did you not know this? That Riley from Inside Out and Inside Out 2 was named after a street adjacent to the Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco. That they were having story meetings at the Family Museum. They saw the signpost that said Riley Road or Riley Avenue, whatever it is. And that's how they came up with the name Riley.
Cool. I also did not know that.
I knew that the hockey rink at the end is situated where the museum is, in San Francisco, but I did not know that Riley fact.
That's
or
cool.
If I did, I forgot it.
So see, there you go. That's something that you can learn when you go to D23.
What did you learn?
What did I? Okay, so here's the sad thing. It's a great story. No, it's a great story, but I can't remember the name of the. So it was during the Women of Animation series presentation I saw, and I will have to look up the name of the animator, and that's really embarrassing because it should have stuck with me. But she was of Japanese descent, and she was working at Disney for a while, but then had an opportunity for some reason to go to New York. And while in New York is when all of the drama and happened within the US, where we horribly interned we took our Japanese American citizens and relocated them, imprisoned them. I mean, just a really awful part of American history. But she, by just kind of luck, was in New York instead, while her family was, undergoing this traumatic experience. So Walt went and visited her in New York to make sure she was okay. This is how the story was recounted at the event, and that was an aspect that's like a story about Walt that's even more humanizing for me than I've ever really kind of heard about him. He's always been presented as not unkind, but like kind of distant, like kind of just give you a nod of the cap or something. You know what I mean? It's just, but that story was kind of a warmth that was really endearing. And in talking with her, and asking her how she was doing, she apparently gave the impression to him that she was kind of downplaying her ethnic background, her heritage. And he told her, no, you're an American. You don't owe these people anything. If people are asking you, you just tell them you're an American, or you tell them none of your business. He was very much, kind of shoring up within her, just no, you have nothing to hide. Don't let these people, put you in that state of mind. And like I say, it was kind of a warmth that, well, I know he has, because I've heard stories from Diane and whatnot, but just so many of the stories I'd heard from him were kind of like a little bit of a distant leader. To hear that was really endearing, and a story I had not heard before.
That's a great story. I think it shows, I don't think anyone would disagree with the statement that he was not a leader that heaped praise. But I think that was a leadership. I don't think that was because he was a jerk. I just think that was his leadership style. And I think he cared about his people. He just felt that was the way to get the best out of them, right or wrong. It's not really relevant. But people can kind of equate that, especially in today's world, of being unkind or uncaring. But then you see other stories where when it actually mattered, involving family or life.
Well, like Diane would talk about how he would make time to make sure to come get them at the end of the school day,
right?
Things like that. But as fans, we always joke around about how he gave his wife that big petrified tree stump that sits in Disneyland as an anniversary. It's that.
He's not the most empathetic guy in the world. He might be caring, but I don't think he was empathetic.
So, but yeah, like I say, that was a story that I was like, okay, and I'm terribly sorry that I don't know the name, and I will look through my notes and commit that to memory moving forward, because I really should know the artist, not only Walt within that story, but so many names were thrown out at that event that I don't want to misascribe. So
no, it's kind of a shame. I mean, it's good, but you learn so much at D23 about the past, present, and future that sometimes it's hard to remember everything you picked up in that moment.
It makes me want to read Mindy's book. I've not read Mindy's book, and Mindy Johnson's book on the women of animation, and it made me realize that I would probably enjoy it more than I thought I would, because I'm very much a Disney theme park person. Most of my love and affinity for Disney is because of the theme parks, even more so than I'm not somebody who rewatches the movies ad infinitum or that kind of thing. I really am about Disney experiences, the theme parks, the cruises. That's kind of where my passion for the brand is based in.
Yeah, but I don't think you're alone in that, but I also think, even as an experiences fan, so much of what Walt did with animation led into that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you may not be an animation expert, but having an appreciation for what Walt accomplished in animation informs our appreciation of experiences. I grew up where I had more access to the theme parks than Alex did. And so Alex, while he loves the theme parks, only had the films. And so he knows them better than I do. But it's the similar principles that made us fans of both, right? One was easier for me than the other, and one was easier for him than the other. And so, but we all love the same thing, the optimism and the, technical excellence that are equal.
Yep.
Well, we should probably wrap up since it's been.
That sounds good to me. Wrap it up.
We've been talking longer than Dumbo.
I know, right? Thanks everybody for tuning in. Like I say, we'll be around. So like and subscribe, and I guess that's it. Bye for now.
Happy Halloween.